Okay, and we're recording. So welcome everyone to this new Secret of Light study group. I'm really excited about it. Also a bit nervous because I've been talking about this for years, some of you know. And it's been my deep instinct that this is going to help people in their seeking. That is my hope, and that is why I'm doing this. And I'm nervous because a part of me feels like, oh, but what if nobody gets it, or what if it doesn't help people? So anyway, I'm been going through my whole process today, getting ready, but I'm feeling really honored to be together with you all, and excited and hopeful for the juiciness of this material and how we get to travel through it together. So thanks for joining. Thanks for being here. It's really good. This is going to be a little bit of a different format than we've been doing in the Law of One study groups. We have 90 minutes. It's an evening slot, so I'm trying to respect everyone's time. So we only have 90 minutes for the study group. So we're going to start off by sharing in some meditation together to, just to deepen in the field together and get present. And then we're just going to jump right into the content. We're not going to do a round of check-ins. And we'll see how that goes. And I just really hope everyone can, just realize we're inventing this on the fly, and it is co-created, so we're inventing it together. So I'm really happy to hear anyone's feedback about how this goes, any reflections from you all afterwards, and we can totally shift and change as needed. My intention is to, create a really wonderful experience for you all, and hopefully uplifting and beneficial experience for you all. So I really want to hear, after tonight, I want to hear from you how the format was. But just to say, it's going to be a little bit different. For those of you who have joined the Law of One study group, it's going to be a little bit different than that. So yeah, and the biggest difference is we won't spend a half an hour doing check-ins. So, and because it's the first call, it's gonna be mostly orientation and introduction to the material, to who Walter Russell is, a little bit about the book, and then we'll do a little bit of reading and discussion towards the end. And then in the next session, we'll really be diving in kind of in earnest right into the material. So tonight will also be a little bit different just because we're getting started and oriented and all introduced to what we're studying. So there's the context. Hope that all makes sense. Any questions? Okay, great. All right, so I'm going to set a timer here, and hopefully it rings through on the microphone. I might have to just use my own voice to start and stop us for the 3-minute timer. And I'm going to invite everyone to just drop in and find yourself wherever you're sitting. Come into the present moment, come into your body. You can use your breath as a tool to really get present in your body and enjoy the stillness together for 3 minutes. Here we go, starting now. Okay, everyone. Come on back, nice and gentle and easy. So I'm actually going to start off by going off the rails of my own plans for tonight. It feels too weird to just be the one doing all the talking. I really want to, if we could, just do a mini round where we each just, if you could just unmute yourself. We'll go one by one. I'll call on you and we'll just go one by one and just unmute yourself. And if you could just share your name and just a brief sentence about how you're feeling now. So I'll model that. So my name is Aaron Merritt, and I'm starting to toy with going by Professor Moo, and I am feeling energized. And Nia, if you wouldn't mind going next.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nia. I'm grateful to be here, and I'm grateful to all of you for showing up. And I'm really tired. It's been a couple of days, so I'm lucky to be here right now, sliding in. But I'm happy to be here. So, thank you.
Thanks, Nia. Jim, would you go next?
I'm Jim McCarty, and I'm feeling very inspired to work into new information that is congruent and perhaps an expansion of the law of one.
Thank you. Diana?
I'm Diana Roy. I'm feeling pretty achy right now, but fascinated by this material and just comfortable with the group and excited to dig in.
Wonderful. Natalie?
I'm Natalie Rose Martin. My grandmother is dying, so I'm crying. I talked to her today, and she said she knows what to do and she knows where she's going, and that I should see her at the cabin with granddad. Yeah. So I feel really tender.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Carolyn?
Yeah, hi, Fairlyn. Well, now I feel really soft and in the mystery. And I felt pretty dreamy all day and just kind of expectant. Glad to be here.
Thanks. Rachel?
Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm feeling thankful to take a breath. It's been busy today, and I started getting really dizzy during the meditation, and I don't know why. I think maybe that's just every time we drop into these meditations, I feel energized, but this time I felt like a swirly dizziness. So I'm just trying to breathe through it, but I'm grateful to be here.
Thank you. Steph?
Hi everyone, I'm Steph. I am calling in from Vancouver, Canada, and I'm ecstatic to be here. I found the group last night and I felt like I was levitating during my sleep time, which was very interesting. So coming back this morning was an adventure, and I listened to your reading of the book, Erin, this morning. So that's how my day started. So I feel like I'm in the right place. I'm really excited for this. So thank you for welcoming me to the group.
Indeed. Kent?
I have to unmute first. Hi, everybody. I'm very glad and excited to be here, and I look forward to studying this material with you, Aaron, and everybody else. Like Nia, I'm pretty tired. I've had 2 nights of not enough sleep, so but I'm glad to be here. And I'm in. And Natalie, I'm sorry for your heartache.
Yeah. Jess?
Hi, I'm Jess. I have been feeling a little bit of anxious anticipation about this, so I'm excited and tired and a little tender. Glad to be here.
Thank you. BJ and Spirit Song?
Okay. Well, that's funny. Maybe you go ahead. Sorry. You go ahead. I've got a cough drop here.
Maybe let's have V go and we'll go in a minute.
Maybe. Okay.
Oh, V's here. I don't see. V's here.
Hey y'all, I'm here. I'm V. I am frazzled as fuck. Oh God, it's been quite a day. And I'm really excited to be here. Super excited. I'm thrilled, honored, delighted. And it's good to see you all. Check.
Thank you. Okay, how about now, BJ and Spirit Song? You ready?
Yeah, I'll try this again. That's one of my residues from stroke activity is sometimes I choke when I think I'm gonna speak or yeah. And I'm so thankful that you followed your instinct. And did I say I'm Spirit Song? I'm Spirit Song. And I'm glad that you followed your instinct to have us all introduced, because that really means a lot, because I don't know everybody. And so that makes me feel a little more connected in that way. And I'm just really thankful to be here.
Do you want to say hi?
We're on. Yeah.
We have a visitor.
Yeah. Benny
Do you
stopped
wanna
in
say
to
hi?
say hi.
There's Benjamin.
Hi. Sorry to intrude. I didn't realize you were all in the middle of something.
Yeah. And yeah, I'm in. Yeah.
My name is BJ. I'm really glad to be here with my friend Spirit Song. Really glad that she's well and out of the hospital.
And I'm thankful you're here. Yeah.
So excited to study this material. Yeah, feeling grateful. Check.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much. Thank you for speaking yourselves into the circle. It does feel so much more connected now to me too. And thanks for all of you who are pushing through one thing or another to be here. Really appreciate that. Really appreciate your presence. Yeah, feeling the doubling effect. Feels like a strong field. So thank you for co-creating that. Okay. So here's the outline. Actually, I'll go ahead and drop in. I've got a little, oops, yeah, I'll drop into the notes, I'm sorry, the chat if anybody wants to see how we're gonna proceed. Where'd that go? Oops, maybe I won't. There we go. Okay, so we've done our meditation. And next up is, I just wanted to let you all know why The Secret of Light? Of all the books in the world, other than Law of One, why start a new study group? And some of you have a little bit more of a sense from, have heard me talking about this book and this material over the years. And Jim, it's sort of like what you said in your check-in. It's as far as I can tell, it's 99% like congruent with what Ra teaches in the Law of One, and it fills out some I won't say some missing pieces, but it certainly fills out some details of a unified cosmology. So The Secret of Light is, I think it's one of the books that was written. So Walter Russell is the person who wrote the book. And The Secret of Light, I think, is the best. If we're going to read one of his books, I think it's the best. I think it's, none of his books cover his whole philosophy / science. But I think The Secret of Light is the most accessible, and it does the best job of kind of telling the story of what he saw when he had his cosmic illumination, and was able to peer behind the veil and bring back this deeply, deeply beautiful and profound wisdom about the Creator being all that there is, and how the Creator creates the universe through light. And we'll go through the book, and we'll get these pretty amazing insights into the fundamental nature of things. And so yeah, that's kind of the gist of it. And then of course the other piece is more on the sort of spiritual, personal side of things. Reading this book and learning about Walter Russell's cosmology helps me feel closer to God. And and that's so precious. And so I'm hoping to specifically share that with you all too, and see if that, in the hopes, to whatever degree you desire that you have that. Check my notes here. So yeah, the complement to the Law of One, and The Secret of Light, it bridges physics and metaphysics through light. And that's very valuable, I think, to be able to span the realm of our physical reality and the physical universe, so-called, and what's underneath of it, the invisible spiritual reality that that births the physical reality. And the secret of light spans that and bridges those two areas really elegantly. And it also spans science and religion, or science and philosophy. It's very testable. A lot of what Walter Russell talks about, it's very testable. There have been laboratory experiments and new findings and new elements discovered based on his insights. So it's very much kind of a scientifically testable. And also it definitely travels in the realm of religion and spirituality, talking about the creator and talking about the invisible universe, things that we can't test, that we can't see. And so I just love that. I love the synthesis of those realms. Very, very valuable to me. And yeah, and then the last piece I want to say about it is I really do feel like his teachings, which Nikola Tesla, they had a meeting, and Nikola Tesla said, go ahead and lock this up for 1,000 years because the world's not ready for it. So Nikola Tesla was of the opinion that this is fairly advanced stuff. And for those who know the law of one and know a little bit about Dewey Larson and the physics of Dewey Larson, Dewey Larson's model of physics is a unified physics, and it's, I believe it's an electric universe compatible physics. And Walter Russell's model is also an electric universe. And so it's basically a blueprint or a seed for what I think will become the sciences and the industry and the culture of fourth density. So this is a seed. This is profound wisdom for where we're going, and I think can also help us get there. And so that's very valuable to me as well. Yeah, so that's why I chose this. And I wanted to speak a little bit about, well, I guess I'll pause there. Are there any comments or questions about any of that before I move on? Yeah, go ahead.
You mean electromagnetic universe?
Electric. There's a lot of people who kind of follow this alternative science called electric universe theory.
I was asking, do you not mean electromagnetic?
Well, there magnetism plays into the picture. I'll put it that, and we're going to cover that very specifically as we go through the book. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks for asking. Okay, so Walter Russell, he was an American polymath, which means he mastered many fields and disciplines, and he was famous in his day, and he was born in like 19. Let me see. I've got some notes here. He was born in the 19th century, 1871. He died in 1963. He's 93 years old. He died on his birthday. I think there was some conscious intent on how he refolded, is how he called it. And yeah, so he had a very long life and a very, very prolific life. He was a painter, a sculptor, an architect, and of course, a mystic and a philosopher, among other things. And yeah, so he had this really, really passionate life for creation, to create. And it's my suspicion that he was a wanderer, and that he had a very specific pre-incarnative program that he came in to do this work that he did. And I don't know if anyone had a chance to read the excerpt that I shared before, but there's a little booklet called The Secret of Working Knowingly with God and he talks briefly about his childhood experience and kind of his preparation for this profound illumination, this profound kind of out-of-body experience that he had when he was 49 years old. But really, his whole life leading up to then was a preparation for that experience. So when he was 7, he had this kind of spontaneous out-of-body experience. And then every 7 years, he would have these profound experiences. When he said he was with the light, he would leave his body and he'd be with the light. And each time he would get an upgrade. He would get like a download from his higher self, or from his, from some other deeper part of his mind. And he would come back into his life and he'd have new capacities online to do this work that he came to do in his life. And the work was to basically bring into form this cosmic information about the unity of the universe, about the creator, about our oneness with the creator. And he did a really good job of it. And even after he started writing, he wrote a bunch of books. And yeah, so he's a fascinating figure. And I do hope you get a chance to read the little excerpt that I shared on the thread. Later in the call, I'll read a very short portion of that, just to kind of like bring about who he is as a person and his life, because it's fascinating. He's got a really, really interesting story. So that's Walter Russell. And the organization that is carrying his work, well, and I really should say it's he and his second wife, Lau Russell. He was remarried when he was 77, and they're starseeds. She's also sort of a cosmic initiate in her own right, and they wrote books together, and she was a big part of contributing to the work and the philosophy. So it's the Russells, Lau and Walter Russell, and the organization that carries on their work is called the University of Science and Philosophy, and they're based in Virginia, and their website is philosophy.org, and they have events. They have a lot of cool stuff going on. There's a museum that you can visit, and that has artwork and sculptures of Walter Russell's. And I actually haven't been yet, but I'd like to go. And yeah, I just wanted to give a shout out to USP for carrying his work. They continue publishing his books. And they have a monthly meetup they've been doing for a couple of years now. It's called the Cosmic Messengers Meetup. And there's information about that on their website. And they're starting a new monthly meetup. It's a bit like this. It's a study group for people who are more interested in the science. Of course, we'll be doing both the science and the philosophy. It's integrated. But they're spinning up a new monthly event too. So I just wanted to mention that there's stuff going on there that y'all can check out if you're interested. So thank you to the University of Science and Philosophy for all you do. And of course, on their website, there's a store, and all the books are available there. And boy, do I feel blessed. They just offered to us, to TOTOH, to be a authorized distributor to all the products in their store, and we can purchase them for a discount. And I'm happy to do that for any of you and just pass the discount along to you all. So I started a thread. I started to inquire into who would like to order. I got a few people who've let me know they want to make an order. So over the next maybe day or two, I want to get all the orders in, and I'll make one big order and then ship everyone's material out to them. So if you're interested in that, check on the Secret of Light topic on the Telegram thread, and we'll get that going. It's exciting. Okay, so that's USP, University of Science and Philosophy. Okay, I'm going to do a share screen with you guys, and I'm going to just quickly go over the syllabus. So, share screen. And hopefully you guys can see that. Does that show up pretty well for everyone?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Secret of Light. Study group syllabus. So yeah, I don't need to be super repetitive. We're just going to be meeting from the time frame of 7 to 8:30, and I think I'm gonna see if we can get through it in 17 sessions. Today being number 1. And in order to do that, it's going to take us about reading about 15 to 20 pages per week, which I think is doable. So if we can keep that pace up, and of course we'll respond if it's feeling too fast or too slow. We'll have a conversation about it, and we'll just flex and make it work for everybody. But that's the goal, is to get through it in 17 weeks. And if we do that, we'll be finishing up at the end of, I believe it's, let me see, May. Yeah. So that's the goal there. And then I've prepared materials for you all. I do definitely encourage everyone to, I know a lot of you already have gotten the book, The Secret of Light. That's a key thing to have. And I encourage everyone to do so. And in the class materials folder, there are PDFs of the reading. So so you can use those as as a supplement to having the book, or if you don't have the book yet, you can just read those. And there's also a folder in there called audio, and I have begun the process of doing a read along. So as you're reading the material, I know for a lot of people it just really helps, especially V mentioned this is really helpful to them. It helps. Some people just have a really hard time reading on their own and digesting the information. So I've gone ahead and made audio recordings of each of the chapters, so that you can either just listen to it on its own, or you can read and listen at the same time. And I hope that helps you take in the information. So there's a folder full of those audios. I haven't completed that project yet, but there's everything for next week will be in there by the end of the day today, I'll say. So that's study materials. Yeah, I think I've mentioned everything else there. So the schedule just lays out which you should be reading week by week. And again, you can see if you look at the page numbers, it's, like I said, between 14, 15, 20, maybe there's one 21 or 22 page week. So hopefully that's doable, and that's the goal, and that's what we're going to aim for. Yeah. Okay, any questions about any of that? More format kind of stuff. Does all sound clear? Great. Cool.
You're doing great.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Good.
Professor Mo.
Good. Glad it's making sense. Okay. That sums up all the sort of like preparatory, orientation, introductory stuff. And now we have a little less than an hour left, about 50 minutes. Is that right? Something like that. Yeah, something like that. And I wanted to go ahead and read the author's foreword from The Secret of Light and an excerpt from The Secret of Working Knowingly with God. And by read, I mean have you guys read, and then we'll discuss. So does anyone have the book or the PDF for The Secret of Light who would like to read the author's foreword? 3 pages. Diana?
I can read. Oh, Diana raised her hand.
You can feel free. I was just volunteering because I do have the book.
I'll thumb wrestle you for it. No, just kidding. You go ahead.
Okay. All of it, Aaron?
The 3 pages. Yeah, just 3 pages, the whole thing.
Okay. Author's foreword. Jesus said, "God is light," and no man of that day knew what he meant. The day is now here when all men must know what Jesus meant when he said, "God is light." For within the secret of light is vast knowledge yet unrevealed to man. Light is all there is. It is all we have to deal with, but we do not yet know what it is. The purpose of this message is to tell what it is. Today's civilization has advanced far in knowing how to deal with matter, but we do not know what matter is, nor the why of it. Nor do we know what energy, electricity, magnetism, gravitation, and radiation are. Nor do we know the purpose of the inert gases and what they are. Nor do we know the structure of the elemental atoms, nor the gyroscopic principle which determines that structure. Nor are we aware of the fact that this is a two-way, continuous universe of balance in all effects of motion, and not a one-way, discontinuous universe. Nor have we even yet heard of or suspected the most important of all principles in physics, the voidance principle, and the mirrors and lenses of space, which are the cause of illusion in all moving things. Nor do we even consider the entire material electric universe to be the illusion which it is, there being no reality to it whatsoever. Nor have we the slightest inkling of the cause of curvature of space, nor the voidance of that curvature in planes of zero curvature at wave field boundaries. No one knows how it is that crystals get their various shapes. It will amaze the world to know that those shapes of crystals are determined in space by the shapes of the wave fields which bound the various elemental structures. Nor have we the slightest conception of what constitutes the life principle, nor the principle of growth, nor the simultaneous unfoldment, refoldment principle, which repeats all patterns in nature sequentially and records and voids them as they are repeated. Nor are we aware of that recording principle by means of which the Creator carries forth the sum totals of every sequential cycle in his unfolding and refolding universe unto the very end of its manifestations upon one planet and its beginning on a new one. Nor are we dynamically aware of the souls and seeds of things. These roots of universal repetition are now but metaphysical abstractions to religion and physical guesswork to science. Within the secret of light is the answer to all of these heretofore unanswered questions, and many more, which the ages have not yet solved. This revelation of the nature of light will be the inheritance of man in this coming new age of greater comprehension. Its unfoldment will prove the existence of God by methods and standards acceptable to science and religion alike. It will lay a spiritual foundation under the present material one of science. The two greatest elements in civilization, religion and science, will thus find unity in marriage of the two. Likewise, human relationships will become more balanced because of greater knowledge of universal law, which lies behind all of the processes which light uses to interweave the patterned forms of this electric wave universe. There is no department of life which will not be vitally affected by this new knowledge of the nature of light, from the university to the laboratory, from government to industry, and from nation to nation. I therefore give it to you with all of its clarity, as I myself have become aware of it from behind the scenes of this cosmic cinema of light illusion, which is our universe. Walter Russell.
Beautifully read. Thank you so much. So I'd like to pause there and just discuss that. Yeah, hear anything that comes up for people when they hear that, or any questions or comments or insights. The floor is open. We can just try out just being free with it and just pop in, and if it gets active, we can do the hand raise Zoom thing. But if anyone wants to say anything, just go ahead and pop in and say it.
I find it fascinating that, like, maybe not most, but it seems like most of what he was saying is what we're not aware of. And I feel like my horizons are so expanded. Like, he wasn't, yeah, just that sort of juxtaposition of, like, here's what you're not aware of and what you're not aware of and what you're not aware of. And of course, what he's pointing to is what we could be aware of. But yeah, I just feel really expanded. That's what I noticed foremost.
Yeah.
It sounds like we're going to be introduced to really intense scientific stuff. And there were a lot of terms that I just didn't recognize, but there was a little bit of a nice connection for me, which was where he said that no one knows yet how crystals are formed and how it has to do with the waves in space influencing the way that the elements bind together. I think that's so cool because it's always been a curiosity of mine and beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, there is. Let me just make a comment. There is, there are a lot of terms that are, scientific sounding and mathematical sounding, and I think they are. And the way that the information is presented in this book really doesn't require any scientific background or understanding. I really feel like we'll be able to, as we read it together and support each other, I really do. It is my impression that we'll be able to grok what he's talking about. So don't be intimidated by all those scientific sounding words.
I was gonna add that I love when science sounds and feels like poetry, and just yeah, hearing Diana read is also beautiful, and the words themselves and the kind of the essence, and I feel like the intelligence of like what is the architecture of reality in the universe. Of course it would sound like poetry, Rumi-esque, and I'm just really enjoying that, and looking forward to hearing Professor Mu's voice reading it. I'll probably just listen to it many times because it's like just hearing it sort of brings me into more coherence. So yeah.
Yeah.
Aaron.
Yes.
Do you know when he wrote this? I don't see a year here.
I believe it was 46.
Okay.
1946.
Okay. Well, I look forward to hearing.
47, 46 or 47. Yeah.
Okay.
Published.
Very good. I look forward to learning about the avoidance principle. That sounds interesting. And did he say something about noble gases? We don't know what the purpose is of noble gases.
Yes. I think he said inert. Oh, maybe inert noble gases.
Maybe. Okay. Yeah, I've been looking for it here and I can't find it again. Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Yeah, like I said earlier, there is no one book that just lays out the whole cosmology, the whole teaching. So, but one of the things I love about this book is it's broken into 3 parts. The first 2 are all narrative, but the third has a bunch of drawings that he did. So it has a visual teaching component, which is super helpful for me because I'm a visual learner. And I have most of his other books, and I will be I'll be sharing portions of the other books to help us, fill out as we go. I'll be sharing portions of the other books that feel like they'll help us fill out the understanding of what we're covering. So,
Kent, the inert gases are at the beginning of paragraph 3.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. Oh yeah, I see it. Okay.
Yeah, if anybody hasn't had a chance to read the introductory PDF that Aaron sent, it's just like it's a little talk. It's based on a little talk that the author gave. And also there's a little bit of biographical information there, and it's mind-blowing. It's like the most interesting thing I've read in years. It's worth checking out.
Yeah. And especially for folks who, learn relationally, through human relationships, and feelings and emotion. Getting a story about Walter Russell told through his own voice, and his childhood and his schooling and everything, it really helps me kind of learn it from that angle rather than the purely, informational angle. And even, the part of what Diana just read, the foreword, like the glimpse into his relationship to the kind of academic world. He was such a misfit in school. He couldn't, in fact, he describes it as though there was some mysterious force that when it was time to pick up a book, he couldn't pick it up. And if he did pick it up and open the page, he'd have to close it. Like he couldn't look at the books that they gave him in school because he said he either knew deeply that he didn't need to know this information, or that it wasn't so. The information that was being taught in the book just wasn't the truth of how things actually work. He just had an instinct, a deep instinct to it. And so he stopped going to school when he was like 9 years old, I believe it was, and became an artist at 9 years old and began supporting himself as a teenager. So that's fascinating. So right off the bat, he didn't have the tightest relationship with like academia, right? But then after he got his download, he realized if he's going to tell this story or tell this, this message to the world, he's got to go learn that language. He never learned it in school. So he had to spend like 10 years learning how to talk the talk of chemists and learning how to talk the talk of like all the different, areas of science sufficiently to be taken seriously. So yeah, it's interesting. And knowing that when we read the foreword and he talks about all the things we don't know, it like gives it more meaning. It's like, well, he's trying to paint this picture of like, y'all, a lot of the information we have and we think is the keys to reality is just information. It's not knowledge. It doesn't give us the insight into why and where it comes from and the how, the deeper sort of the genesis of things. We know a lot about the effects of things, but what is the cause? Capital C, cause. So yeah, check out the little biography in that little book if you get a chance. It's really, really interesting. One, in fact, we could just go ahead and read a piece.
I just wanted to mention in case anybody missed it, that one is called, The Secret of Working Knowingly with God.
How about we go ahead and read a little piece of that? BJ, did you want to, you had raised your hand earlier. Do you want to?
Sure.
Okay.
And did you want to start with the indescribable experience?
I think I like that idea. That was your suggestion. I liked it.
Okay. So yeah, Aaron gave us some of the context of what his life had been like before, where he was having these big downloads every 7 years, and then somewhat smaller, but integrating experiences every May of the single years in between. And then when he was at 7 times 7 at 49 years, I'm going to read from page, if you want to follow along, page 26 in The Secret of Working Knowingly with God. And it's this section is called My Indescribable Experience in 1921. Then came the great experience in 1921. I was totally unaware that it would be different from anything else, but it was so utterly different. It was an experience which is so indescribable that I am not even going to attempt to do it. It is a very dangerous thing to go through because I doubt if very many could even recover from it. I doubt if I would have been willing to come back into the physical world if I hadn't had the message, the command that I had received. The purpose for which I had been prepared all my life was so specific that I had to come back. And even when it took 3 months to be willing to come back to a world which seemed so coarse and so terrible, those 39 days and nights were of great ecstasy in which the body and consciousness were practically severed. I was aware of my body, yes, like an instrument that we need to pick up and use when we want, but it didn't seem to be me. I had control of it just as I could pick up a pen to write with, but I felt my body was detached from me. I felt when it was asleep that it was off on a shelf somewhere, and I was glad of it. The more I was freed of it, the happier I was and the more ecstatic. Of course, the family was worried, and naturally, friends were worried too and wanted to take me on an ocean voyage and all sorts of things. And then there's a little example of his handwriting at that time. It just sort of looks like scribbles. Or, yeah. Finally, after the doctors examined me and advised my wife to leave me alone, everyone did, and I was left alone. There were papers everywhere. The divine Iliad was in parts everywhere, fragments of it, connected and disconnected. At first, my handwriting was so illegible, going uphill and downhill, shaking and quaking, that afterward I could hardly decipher what I had written on those papers. And then I commanded my body to write perfectly. And I wrote like a school child in plain script, perfectly legible. In those 39 days and nights, God spoke to me continuously in the language of light, which I knew as well as I know the English language I'm speaking to you now. It had a meaning, a vital meaning, a meaning fraught with the safety of the whole human race. It necessitated the uplift of the whole human race with new comprehension of this new age. The seed of that new comprehension for the uplift of the human race was mine to sow in the minds of 10 men, who would again reach out to 10 more men, and another 10, and another 10, until there would be legions. And the legions would sow the seed of love to offset the seeds of hate and fear and greed that have brought us to the terrible impasse we have been in. The old order where fear and hatred were abroad in the land, together with greed and selfishness, nation robbing nation, nation killing nation. That order must cease. It was then made known to me in 1921 that the first crop of the harvest that we had been reaping in the war was not finished. We had not been chastened sufficiently. The whole world would be drenched in blood and agony. All of that carnage will have ceased by 1946, and by that day, I must be ready to begin to tell you, and you, and you, what I'm telling you. I didn't even have the capacity of telling it in words. I had to prepare for it. I did not have the oratorical ability to do it. God said I would have it, and I must have it, and I must prepare for it. And I knew I would, and I have. I have taken that responsibility upon myself, and am asking you to take upon yourselves the responsibility of sharing this message to all the world.
Thank you. So this experience he's describing, or he's referencing, this indescribable experience, he'd been at this point he'd been quite used to. When May would roll around, he'd be quite used to kind of getting ready for, preparing for this experience of having spontaneous kind of like astral travel take place. But this time it was much deeper than it had ever been before, and it lasts for 39 days. So for 39 days, he was in some state of like, I mean, I honestly don't even know physically how that worked. Like, did he come back enough to be able to take care of his bodily needs? I'm not really sure, but for 39 days, he was with the light, deeply, deeply with the light. And he had taught himself to, or had begun to teach himself how to send messages back to his body from his position and take notes. So he filled notebook after notebook after notebook. So there was helpers there, whether, I'm not sure if it was his wife or who it was, but he had support in the physical. And he wrote something like 40,000 words of notes as he was having this experience, to try to capture what he was being shown and what he was being told. Of course, the messages he was getting weren't in English, so he had to do some translation. But yeah, that was the big that was the big event that he's describing there, is this 39-day long, yeah, he calls it the cosmic illumination.
So what I've understood from you, Aaron, is the cosmic illumination became the book, The Divine Iliad. And then from there, his life's work was really unpacking the Divine Iliad and unpacking what the download of the 39 days had been. And some of that unpacking is the book, The Secret of Light.
Correct.
So it's his own telling, but it's, I guess, his, as closely as he could get it, directly from the download.
Yeah, thanks for that context. That's really important. The Divine Iliad he wrote directly from his notes. So as I understand it, the Divine Iliad is you know, it's the closest to channeled material that I think came through him. Like, he says that it's not in his voice, it's in God's voice. And that's distinct. That book is distinct from all the rest of his work. So The Secret of Light is Walter Russell writing, you know, making sense of what he learned, making sense of what he came to understand, and translating it through his own mind, body, spirit complex, through his own personality, through his own, you know, through his own capability to do that. But the Divine Iliad, he attributes to, you know, God speaking through him more closely. And of course, I'm so curious what that means, because cutie. Anyway, that's something maybe we could get into at some point, or maybe we could have a conversation about it now. But you know, when I think about the Ra contact and, you know, the characters involved and where Ra was from, and then Ra references some, you know, they reference some guardians from the next octave. They reference some higher, you know, beings that are even, you know, further along in evolution, or just of a kind of a higher order. And I'm just wondering, you know, when Walter Russell was in the light and he was hearing the voice of what he calls the voice of God, I'm so curious. You know, we can never know, but I'm so curious what that means. And sometimes I feel like, well, could it have been the Logos? Like, could it have been the Logos that he was speaking to? Does the Logos speak to mind, body, spirit complexes? I don't know.
Are we in another portion of
discussion? Yeah, open discussion. Sure.
Right.
Yeah. Thanks, BJ. Diana, did you want to say something?
If now's a good time, yeah, I was just gonna make a couple connections to the Law of One, and also say that I'm really curious about that too. Who was talking? And in some places there was this language that gave me pause for a second in that introductory PDF where he said, I was commanded to do this, and I was told that man would suffer through years of violence at his own, you know, of his own doing and things, and it seemed prophetic and a little concerning. And but then the author went on to say more, and what he said kind of balanced it out and assuaged my concerns that it might be distorted. It was just a strong way of stating that he was very impelled or compelled to do that work. It was interesting to me when he talked about how the concepts came in a round way. They were full concepts that he was downloading. And he said that it can take decades or 10 years or something for people, scientists, to work out the language for expressing these things. And he himself didn't have the language. So he needed to, like you said, kind of develop the schema for talking about this stuff. And with the Ra contact, it was like Carla had prepared herself so well to be an instrument, and she had practiced trans-channeling before. And even as a conscious instrument, like, she had so much schema for relaying the concepts that she was receiving in a very round kind of global way. It feels like there's no escaping that work, because like Walter Russell was uneducated and it all came to him, and then he had to like catch up and do the work of making himself able to express what he had received. Whereas Carla was so highly educated And when these concepts came to her, she was able, I mean, this is not the raw contact where she was in trance, but just with her general conscious channeling, she was able to articulate so much because she had so much metaphysical esoteric foundation. So just making that connection. And then the other thing that stood out to me was this concept of like mental illness, and how Ross says that some wanderers can become imbalanced by kind of the difference between their home vibrations and what they're experiencing here. And Walter Russell was saying that as a child, he told his mom what was happening to him. And she said, well, if it's still happening in a couple of days, I'll call the doctor. And then they got really worried about him when his handwriting went all wavy and he was depersonalized or whatever happened, and wanted to take him on a boat ride. And then lo and behold, look what was happening. So sometimes it seems to be a very fine line. And I noticed that in my personal life all around me, just people with depth and brilliance who seem to be channeling through so much of power and truth. And, you know, there's some instability, some imbalance, and you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. And that was how, oh God, I have so much to say, but I'm going to wait and let other people talk.
Well, I want to respond to one thing you said. I really appreciated a lot of your comments just there. I could totally riff off a lot of them. But the one thing that I wanted to share from my own experiences, I had a very similar reaction. Like there is a clothing of some of the telling of the teachings that comes through. You know, it just feels kind of old guardy. You know, it feels like an old paradigm kind of a way. I mean, you know, and even the sort of like, you know, the masculine telling of God, you know, calling of God, he, and these sorts of things, and man and mankind, you know, so there's this, I think that's just the way that people used to, and, you know, oftentimes still do talk about these concepts. Yeah. And there's, you know, there's kind of a patriarchal thing going on with some of the clothing of the message. And it prickled me too. And then just as I kept going through the material, it's like, yeah, it's worth wading through that. You know, it's, for me, you know, it felt worth just trying to put aside the pieces that feel a little, you know, patriarchal, and look beyond them, you know, look beyond that. And again, it's like the difference between trance channeling and conscious channeling. Most of his teaching he did, you know, in a way that's similar to conscious channeling. Like it's coming through his personality, you know, he's translating these sort of direct kind of downloads he's getting through, you know, to the best he can through his own personality. And so, you know, we have to kind of wade through that. But he obviously was very committed to love and serving others and the upliftment of as many people on earth as possible. So it's like, okay, let's keep looking at this.
I got a question. So does he ever say what the significance is of the month of May? Like, was his birthday in May, or?
Yeah, he was born in May. Yep. Okay. And on that yearly, you know, when the alignment was such, when he came in is when these experiences, he'd have these experiences.
Right. Okay.
So I don't know if it was that or if it was just springtime, or yeah, I'm not sure. He didn't, as far as I know, he never really fully explained it, but yeah, that's when he was born. I think on May 19th or something.
Okay. Very good.
Yeah.
What was it that he said about the harvest during the war? Can you repeat that part, or somebody explain what that means?
Sure.
It's page 30. And it was about the old, he was referring to the old order where fear and hatred were abroad in the land. And then he says, It was then made known to me in 1921 that the first crop of the harvest that we had been reaping in the war was not finished. We had not been chastened sufficiently.
Who's we?
Humankind, I think he's talking about.
I do too. I think he's talking about that, you know, there was some sort of global lessons about the significance of war. That's the way I take it. That that humankind hadn't learned those lessons yet.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I just was like intrigued by it because my ears perked up because, you know, we all have that association with the harvest. And so I was curious if I had misheard something or
Yeah.
wanted your input on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I didn't take it to be the same way that Ra refers to harvest. I think he means it more metaphorically.
Well, I was thinking too about certain parables of Jesus. He talks about harvest time in several of his parables as well. And the Divine Iliad I was listening to earlier today, and it's thee, thine, thou. God really likes Elizabethan English or something. Um, but but the thing that keeps coming up to me too is like that his experience in 1921 lasted for almost 40 days. And that seemed significant to me because so many spiritual experiences have this 40-day mark. And then of course, every 7 years, 7 is another significant number. And I just wondered if that was following like a divine numerical blueprint or something.
Yeah. I think those numerical patterns are interesting too. The 7, obviously very significant in the octave system. And the 7 being so significant for him, the 40 days, that's interesting. He does talk about, he talks about Jesus as, he believes, Walter Russell believes that Jesus was, one of a not very large number of cosmic illuminates, what he calls cosmic illuminates, who has walked this planet. And he seems to talk about Jesus as though he was the most, he's down with Jesus. He thinks that Jesus was like the most connected to cosmic consciousness of all the illuminates, at least that he's aware of. I think he probably wasn't aware of some of the Eastern masters of the past, but
isn't 7 years the Saturn return cycle?
7?
Yeah, or how long is the Saturn return cycle?
27, I believe.
28? Okay.
28 to 30 years.
28 to 30. Okay. Is there any other 7-year cycle cosmically?
In the development of the child, yeah. This is reminding me of Rudolf Steiner. I wonder if they were contemporaries. Did they talk? I was just trying to look that up. It's like, did they meet?
That's a great question. They were contemporaries. I don't know if they ever met.
Yeah. Yeah. Steiner was a mystic and a seer, and his pedagogy is about the development of the child. Every 7 years is very important. At 7, we cut our teeth. At 14, adolescence, and the I am comes in, stronger sense of idealism. So it goes on like that every 7 years. I wonder, yeah.
Oh man, I would love to sit on that conversation between Rudolf Steiner and Walter Russell.
Rudolf Steiner, and Tesla.
Yeah,
talking
right.
about how the future ain't ready, or the present ain't ready for us.
Totally. Nia, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to say this really stands out for me. Thank you for verbalizing a note on the verbiage and choices of words, because I've personally, I call it slogging through, because certain words and have certain associations. I know we've kind of touched on this before, but I call it's like a minor trigger. I get a little agitated at certain words, and I have to like slow down and breathe through it and try to think how long ago this was, what their culture was at the time to choose those particular words. And so I have, it makes me feel better to hear that I'm not the only one that has to take a deep breath over certain words, and push past, because I feel like there's truth with a big T that comes in many forms and many teachings, and every one of those that I've come across, I've reminded myself that, or even when starting out, that they're limited to their specific language, their specific culture, the time, and all of these various components that come through that we have to keep into account. So as I go through various teachers, authors, gurus, that's helpful to remember I'm not the only one struggling through certain verbiages. So thank you for voicing that. I appreciate that. That helps me a lot.
I would also say it's actually one of the reasons it's taken me this long. I mean, I literally have been hoping to do this, to read this material together and do a study group for, years. And one of the reasons it took so long is because I just feel so spoiled by the law of one. Like, the law of one is so like at home. I'm so at home with it. Like, I'm so down to talk to anybody but the law of one at any time. And I don't ever feel like I have to dial it back or something. But with Walter Russell, there's this part of me that's like, ugh, man, my friends are gonna like have a hard time with this language, So I feel like it's one of the things. It's one of the influences. It took me a little while to be like, no, it's worth it. We're gonna get past that. It's gonna be great.
Well, just look at the Bible. It's not without its merits, right? But there's some things in there that would rub people the wrong way for sure. And I think what did Ross say, Jim? To the pure seeker, every such and such offers a path to the one infinite creator.
Every religion.
Yeah.
But Jesus spoke of the Father all of the time.
Mm-hmm.
I and the Father are one.
True.
The Lord's Prayer is the Father.
Well, that's what the Bible says. We don't know what he really said.
I will say that there's an Eastern mystic named Anandamayi, a woman, also illiterate and uneducated, who reached states of being where she was, she seemed to be channeling, but she never said that that's what she was doing, but she would refer to herself Anandamayi in the third person, and then be talking as if from the creator. And she, although she's Eastern, always referred to the creator as father or he, or in masculine terms. So I don't know why that is, but she's an interesting mystic because she says things, a lot of the things that she says are so like pinpoint similar to what Jesus says. Like, her teachings are so much similar that if it weren't for certain language differences, it would be like the same person was talking. But
yeah.
I want to just make sure everybody gets to say something if they want to say something. So I would like to pause and see if anybody who hasn't put their voice out has anything to say.
I can share some things. Really appreciating like all the downloads and really appreciating the pause. So thank you, BJ. And yeah, with what Rachel just said, I somehow got my hands on a picture of Ananda Mahima. And then she actually appeared to someone in a dream that I was meant to meet a few weeks after I had received that picture. So it was quite mystical. And I actually have like a devotion board that I created. Maybe I'll share. So it's my little devotion board here with all the gods that I kind of like hang out with. And Ananda Mahima is literally right here. So I'm having like a moment. Well, I've been having many moments, but that's the main moment I'd like to report back on. And I just feel so grateful for all of you because earlier this year I was invited to a Course in Miracle study group that are meeting like every week. And I remember my Course in Miracles book, it actually looks like the Bible. And I was like, I'm not doing this, I can't. So I'm just like having issues. So I felt kind of like, well, that's not my place. Like it's not my group. And I was praying to the universe to, bring in like a tribe where I can like resonate with. So I'm feeling like really emotional in like so many different ways. I don't even know what to say. I'm just kind of like emotional. So thank you. I'm just gonna throw my emotions in here, BJ, for the share. And yeah, that's it. Oh, and the sacred geometry thing is great. I don't even know what to say. I have this book. It's called The Soul of Light. And it's a little, a little intense. And like all I can think about is like, yeah, like it's like I just feel like I've just been with all of you before we've been together. So it feels really good to be home. And that's it.
Thanks, Steph.
Mm-hmm.
Glad you're here.
I saw Farrellyn's hand go up.
I was just waving to Steph. I was just going, yay.
Natalie or Jess, do either of you feel drawn to share anything?
Well, I guess I was curious if there's any other topic to cover, but because I could respond or add to some things that have already been said. But okay, I guess I will. Well, as the conversation about like what's happening, I was recalling the Anastasia books and how, I don't know if y'all know who Anastasia is in the Ringing Cedar series, but I think that she's fourth density being living on the planet now-ish. And she's Russian, and the man who wrote the books about her were written originally in Russian and translated, but the word that she the term that she insisted on using is man to refer to all of us. And so receiving that through her transmission, along with, kind of like unwinding my like anti-religious programming because of the exposure that I had to religion and the work that I've done to support people in unwinding the trauma of religious indoctrination from their body systems. I just feel pretty relaxed about the language thing at this point. So I just wanted to like bring the Anastasia perspective in about that. And then Aaron and I and BJ and Jess recently got into a conversation about the masculine and feminine dynamic of God, or the polarity of masculine and feminine as the, and Aaron said in that conversation, I was starting to like define things, and Aaron was like, well, we're going to talk all about that in the Secret of Light study group. So I imagine we'll get further into that. And I too am curious about the magnetic aspect and how this teaching describes that. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you. Jim, did you want to comment?
Yeah, I am fully aware of and supportive of the masculine feminine balance. I think patriarchy has ruled too long and done too bad a job, and that we need to be focusing more on the feminine. But in my own experience, a couple of years ago, when I was meditating, I felt that the Father wanted to speak through me. And so I challenged it 3 times in the name of Jesus Christ. And each time it said, I'm the Father within you. And ever since then, I've had these communications from the Father. And that's all I can say.
So the thing that I said in that conversation was that I see the creator as being masculine and the creation as being feminine, like the void, which might be full, from which everything emerges, and everything that emerges out of it is all feminine, and the action is masculine. And so it makes sense to me that the creator would show up as the Father or as masculine.
Yeah, I'm so excited about our conversation, like how this conversation we're having now will like lead us deeper into the material. When we get deeper in the material, the polarity, the idea of polarity and positive and negative and masculine and feminine is like it's fundamental to what we're going to be exploring, and it's really, really interesting. And I know for me, I've never been able to, before this material, I've never been able to contemplate primal masculinity and primal femininity, or male female, sexed polarity, without anthropomorphizing it in some way, and these teachings kind of help me like go deep enough into what polarity is, positive negative charge is, and and then people call those charge male and female, and call polarity male and female, but at the deepest level really has nothing to do with like bodies, like which kind of body we're in. We're talking about much deeper forces. And so Ra talks about intelligent infinity having, having 2 forms, and the unmanifest form and the manifest form. And Walter Russell kind of does a similar thing. Like we can talk about, the universal one. Walter Russell calls creator universal one, and refers to that one as the undivided sexless one. So it's prior to polarity. The creator exists on one level prior to creation, prior to polarity. There is no sex. It's beyond sex. It's beyond male or female. And I've always imagined, and this gets back into my question earlier about like, if an entity can talk to me or anybody, then they're part of the creation. They're part of manifestation. They're part of, and so, yeah. So anyway, I'll just leave it at that. Those are just some comments.
Part of the illusion, even.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd love to jump in and just say that really resonates, and like thinking of yin and yang, thinking of universal forces that are with the potential of alchemizing within each of us, and like whatever gender we are all have the capacity to be the alchemy of feminine, masculine energies, or yin and yang. And it's so much easier for me to relate to that when it's not like ascribed to woman, man, or mother, father, because then that starts to then, what do you do? The word you used, anthropomorphize. So yeah, I'll probably be one of the people here who continues to bring that into this conversation, like the potential for each of us to find that whatever that balance is within each of us is like, feels like our own inner mastery and alchemy in relating to and being part of like universal balance, and for me that's something that I'm always like tracking in my own system, like, oh, where is my, it's almost like it's almost like the way I can relate to balancing is when those two aspects are balanced within me. And I think that what that balance looks like for each of us is different. Like that's our own unique blueprints. And it's so different than like that being limited by or to man and woman, or like they're so distinctly different in my mind. So anyway, just wanted to add that.
Yeah. Thanks, V. And thanks all of you. I think we have expired our time period. The last thing I wanted to say, just so everyone knows, I think it's clear by now, but we'll be reading pages 1 through 21, chapters 1 and 2 from part 1 of the book. And that's what we'll be discussing next week. So thank you all. Thanks for being here. Thanks for kicking this off in such a beautiful way. BJ, did you want to say something?
Yes. So the request is to read it before we come.
Yeah, I think you'll get more. I think we'll all get more out of it if you have at least try to get through it. You don't have to fully comprehend it, understand it, or even read it, studiously or diligently. But if you're familiar with we will read it next week. We'll at least read, most of it together in person and then discuss. But I think it's really helpful to try to take some time out of your schedule and read it ahead of time too, if you can.
And Erin, you have that recorded, like audio, we can listen to it.
It's already recorded. I'll upload them tonight. They'll be available tomorrow.
Okay, beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Erin. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I am so excited. Thank you all so much for being here and for joining in this seeking truth, seeking love, seeking our oneness. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you, Erin. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So glad to be with all of you. Good to see you, Jim and Kent and Farrellyn and Diana and Natalie and Nia, Rachel and Steph and Jess and Dee and Aaron. Spirit out.
BJ.
And me too.
Yeah, this is really sweet.
You guys did a great job, Erin and BJ. Wonderful job facilitating. That just felt so good. That was fun. Good night.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you so much.
Sayonara.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.